everybody. Hello. Welcome back to Thursday night. We have a very long testimony prepared for you tonight. It is a lot of pages. So here's my proposal, and we're going to just jump right into it. Looks like I have 4 people watching right now. I don't know if anybody's in chat yet. But after I read through this testimony, direct examination is all about Rocky Gregory and Lori McConnell talking about the logistics of the case. It's all about the officer lineup, AVL information, basic logistics of where she started out at the apartments, and there is no talk whatsoever under direct examination about the accusation itself. So, what I need from my chat is, do you want us to read all of that? It's just a bunch of legal, logistical stuff about where Daniel was, and we already know where he was. Started out at Liberty Apartments, went to the hospital, stayed with her at the hospital. We already know all that. We already know about the room, what it looked like. I've shown you the pictures. So would you rather us just go into cross-examination with Scott Adams, where he does immediately begin to address the allegation? Or do you want us to start by reading direct examination, and then maybe at a later time, if you're bored, let us know and we'll switch and go to cross-examination? So, JD, what do you think? Now, also, I will be putting the entire transcript, will be going into the Shardarian Hill room in my Discord. So at any time, if you want to go back and read, if we do decide to go to cross, if you want to go back and read the beginning, the direct, which was all a waste of time in my opinion, then you can do that at any time. So also, really quick, Jack may not be joining us tonight, at least for now. He's not going to be here. He may be able to join us later. So you got us on loudspeaker. Well, nice. So when we get to cross-examination, Susan is going to read the part for Scott Adams, which Jack normally reads. And then I, or perhaps Alice, will read the part for Lori McConnell. And I will cover the parts where Galen Gigger has to step in and make his comments too. So I'm going to leave this up to the panel then, since we don't have anybody in chat to do what you guys want to do. My vote is I don't want to go through the boring direct examination stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you. It's that boring and it's very uninformative. That's my vote.
I second that.
All right, let's jump in then on page 90.
We're going to start on page 90. Yep. Well, the PDF. And
that's 1664 of the document, of the transcript pages.
Okay. So Mr. Adams has now got the floor. So Mr. Adams, being read by Susan, is going to start on line 11.
Okay, Detective Gregory, you, along with Detective Davis, are the case agents in this particular case, correct?
Yes.
Meaning that you and Detective Davis are the ones that are responsible for determining whether or not charges should be presented to the DA's office, correct?
Yes.
And that you conduct all the interviews, either you or Davis conduct all the interviews of the witnesses, follow the leads, request evidence, issue subpoenas, do everything to build a case, correct?
Yes.
And then eventually you turn it over to the DA's office and they may provide some assistance and additional information they want, and you follow up in that regard, correct?
Correct. Why doesn't he just testify for him?
Right. Now, in this particular case, you certainly want the jury to believe that you're fair and unbiased in regards to your relationship on your job here in regard to Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
I hope so.
Okay. And in that regard, what happens is, and we're going to stick at the moment with Ms. Hill, Shardarian Hill. The first time you heard from Ms. Hill was in September of 2014, correct?
Yes.
And as stated in your report, you received a phone, and this was after the media had a hold of this, and there'd been stuff on social media and in the news media, correct?
Yes.
On Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were contacted by Ms. Hill, and she told you that she was a victim, correct?
That's correct.
This would have been at least some 8 months after any alleged event had occurred, correct?
First, it wasn't 8 months with her.
With her?
Yes.
And that's all I'm trying. I'm trying. This can get confusing. That's why all my questions at this time is going to be regarding Shardarian Hill, okay?
Sorry, I lost
Okay?
my place. Yes, sir.
Are you with me? Now, you're contacting her some 8 months after any alleged event occurred, correct?
Yes.
And you make a small report that she made a phone contact and you told her to come into the office.
Correct.
And she did come into the office and you sat down, and that entire conversation is video recorded, correct?
Yes.
And in that conversation, it starts out with Ms. Hill telling you what brought her there to talk to you, correct?
Yes.
And she starts in with the allegations of what she was doing out there on the scene that got her arrested, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
And she admitted to you that she was in a vehicle of an individual that she knew that she sometimes borrowed, correct?
Yes.
Now, you've heard her testify here in court that the vehicle that she was placed in out in front of those apartments, she didn't know whose it was. Do you remember that?
She did.
But she had actually told you in this interview that she did know the individual and she had actually driven that truck before.
No.
Are you denying that she told you that?
She didn't say if she knew that person or not. She said she did borrow the vehicle.
Did she tell you this? When asked about the pickup, she said it was a dude I knew.
Objection. May we approach, Your Honour?
Did she tell you that?
All right, come up.
Your Honour, I would object to improper impeachment of Shardarian Hill through this witness. Whenever Shardarian Hill testified, Mr. Adams never gave her a chance to explain or deny these previous statements that she made to Detective Gregory. So using Detective Gregory at this time as eccentric evidence of the prior statement that she made is improper.
Okay, you can ask a leading question. Overruled.
She told you in that interview that's videotaped back in September of 2014 that the truck that she was driving on the night in question when she was arrested on December the 20th of 2013 was a dude she knew, correct?
Yes, she did.
Did you ask her who that dude was?
I don't believe so. I can't recall.
You didn't think that that was important?
For her rape case?
Yes.
No.
She also told you that an individual was standing by the vehicle and his name was, all she knew him was KG, correct?
Correct.
But she had actually denied to Officer Holtzclaw that there was even an individual standing by his vehicle, by her vehicle, correct?
Objection outside the scope of this witness' knowledge.
Overruled.
Repeat the question, please.
She had, when Officer Holtzclaw asked her to step out of the truck, the very first question he asked her was, who was that guy that just took off running, correct?
Yes.
And she denied that there was even a guy that he saw took off running, correct?
I believe there was conversation about that, yes.
Yeah. She had told Officer Holtzclaw that it was his lying eyes. Really wasn't anybody running away from her truck, correct?
Objection to the form of the question.
Overruled.
But then when
Hang on.
ever you
Hang on.
interview her,
Hang on. Hang on. You can answer the question.
Yes, sir.
and whenever you interview her, she now tells you that there really was a guy standing outside the truck, correct?
Yes.
And she told you his name was, that she knew him by KG.
Yes.
You suspected that she really knew his real name, didn't you?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I didn't feel like she knew him. I feel like she was being honest with me that it was just KG. She didn't know his name.
Do you deny on the videotape that you say, really? Is that really? I mean, who was it?
Right. I did say that.
You were trying to get her to come forth with whoever it was that was standing by her truck, correct?
Yeah, I just asked it to be clear, yes.
And whenever she said that she was approached by Officer Holtzclaw, she told you that he opened her door, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then he immediately asked about the individual that was standing by her truck that took off running. She said she didn't know what he was talking about, correct?
Correct.
And then Ms. Hill told you that this individual by the name of KG is the one who actually poured PCP on her body.
Yes.
But she also told you that KG had some more PCP, correct?
No, I don't recall that.
Well, she told you that there was PCP in that truck.
I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you recall her telling you that she was able to hide one of the vials in her pants?
She said she did put one of the vials, yes.
Meaning that she had more vials in the truck, correct?
Well, as far as the vials in the truck, I don't recall her speaking specifically about those vials.
There is absolutely no dispute, is there, whatsoever, that Officer Holtzclaw found 3 additional vials of PCP in that truck.
That's correct.
And he eventually, after leaving the hospital and booking her into jail, he books that into the Oklahoma City property room, correct?
Correct.
And then she tells you, and I'm talking about Ms. Hill, tells you that she was staggering, leaning forward, acting like she was about to fall down when she grabbed a vial off the back of the car with her teeth and crushed it in her mouth.
Yes.
And she told you at that point she was really, really high.
Yes.
And then she tells you that after EMSA gets there, it's a medical emergency, that she's rushed to Southwest Medical.
Yes.
And she tells you the first significant event that she recalls happening at the hospital is that she's taken to a shower, or she's showered, and she tells you at that time that Officer Holtzclaw is standing there just watching her and looking at her, correct?
Objection. May we approach, Your Honour?
Come up.
Judge, all these questions are hearsay. They're not impeachment of any witness. I mean, they're hearsay. Objection.
It's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted. He's the lead detective. It's what he did in conformity with learning this information, what actions he took after learning this information. Because he kept saying on his direct examination that was important to him because that's what Shardarian told him. I'm going back to a number of other issues that were important that he never said were important on direct. It's just cross-examination.
Overruled.
So she told you the very first event that she recalls at Southwest Medical Center is she was taken and given a shower and a scrub down, a decontamination. And the whole time, Officer Holtzclaw, she said, was staring at her and gazing at her, correct?
Yes.
And that's significant to you.
Yes.
Okay. Then, to try to determine whether or not, in fact, that statement was true, that Officer Holtzclaw was watching this lady get, by the way, would there have been anything wrong whatsoever with Officer Holtzclaw maintaining custody of the prisoner while she's stripped down and being decontaminated? Is there anything wrong with that?
Depends on the circumstances.
In a medical emergency, when someone is in the possibility of overdosing and they're having to be decontaminated, is it your testimony here under oath that it is okay for the officer to remove himself and let the medical staff watch a prisoner?
There are instances where we do, like when they're getting an MRI, things like that. We have to remove ourselves. That's the type of situation quite possibly you could step out to the side and not have to watch that. Did I drop out?
No,
I think. Oh, okay.
I can hear you anyway.
Susan drop out?
She's muted.
Oh, okay. Line 19, Susan. You're muted.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Susan.
You might need to go out and come back in, Susan.
Oh, no. While we're waiting for Susan to reconnect, I'll answer this really quickly by Robina White. Thank you for joining us, Robina. Did they interview the hospital staff about not checking on her in the second room? Wasn't she in danger of dying? There is some testimony about that, and I am going to put that in the transcript to that in the Discord room, Shardarian Hills Discord. In Shardarian Hills room in my Discord, for crying out loud. So you can read all of that transcript yourself of what all of the hospital staff said.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my headphones went dead, so I'm just
Okay.
on my laptop.
Okay. Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay, good. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Line 19.
Okay. It would also be okay, would it not, for an officer who has a prisoner in custody to stand there if they choose to, while someone's being decontaminated and they're in their custody.
Here again, it could be and it couldn't be. It just depends on the situation.
That officer is responsible for that prisoner, are they not?
Well, yes.
And if that prisoner breaks free and runs and gets away, it's on that officer, is it not?
That's correct.
Now, but you did go back and try to verify because there was a lot of people around while she was being decontaminated, correct?
Yes, sir.
I mean, in fact, one of the ambulance workers said that there were as many as 10 people waiting for them at the emergency bay when they arrived, correct?
He said there was, yes, that's correct.
And so when you went and verified, you even took some photographs of this shower area, correct?
Yes.
You were not able to find one single individual that works at Southwest Medical Center that recalls Officer Holtzclaw staring at Shardarion Hill while she's being decontaminated, were you?
I never found anybody that was paying attention to him at all. That's correct.
So you're agreeing with me that there is not one single person who works at Southwest Medical that ever recalls Officer Holtzclaw standing there watching her being decontaminated while she's naked, correct?
I found no one that was paying attention to Officer Holtzclaw, correct.
What did you find in some of the individuals that you interviewed? What you did find in some of the individuals that you interviewed there at Southwest Medical is they said that the curtains were drawn and there was no room for Officer Holtzclaw to even see her if he wanted to.
I don't recall that one as far as how far the curtain was closed.
Do you recall interviewing anybody at Southwest Medical that told you that they were there during the decontamination? The curtains were drawn as they are in the picture here, and there would not have been room for Officer Holtzclaw to see her naked being decontaminated. Do you recall that?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
I don't recall.
Now, she tells you, also what has come up during this trial is you heard Ms. Hill's testimony where she does not ever recall Officer Holtzclaw being out of her presence while she's at Southwest Medical Center from December 20th of 2013, correct?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
Come on, Rocky, listen, would you? Do you recall Ms. Hill's testimony in front of this jury where she said that she does not recall Officer Holtzclaw ever being out of her eyesight on December the 20th of 2013 while she's at Southwest Medical?
Correct. She did not recall.
Okay, but you do agree with me that during this event, while she's being treated for overdosing and everything that Officer Holtzclaw does, treated for overdosing, and everything that Officer Holtzclaw does go and assist another officer with another prisoner who's escaped Southwest Medical.
Yes, he did.
Okay. In fact, you've introduced a picture of that, and I think that's 115. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm putting up on the viewer there, Exhibit 115. This is a photograph that you've testified and that's been introduced. You testified that you received from Southwest Medical of a still photograph from a video, correct?
Yes.
And you said this is after the event happens, after the individual's caught, correct?
That was what I was informed, yes.
Okay, who informed you of that?
The safety director, ex-police officer Byron Boschel.
And Byron Boschel, was he present when this was taken or when it happened?
I can't speak for that. I don't know if he was.
Well, one thing we do know is that this is Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
Yes.
And this also is an Oklahoma City police officer.
Yes.
Tell the jury who that is right here.
I don't recall.
Well, we know for a fact now that Officer Holtzclaw left Ms. Hill alone while he was trying to apprehend another officer's person in custody at the hospital, correct?
Yes.
Did you not think it was important at any time to identify this officer right here and ask him what happened on December the 20th of 2013?
For the runaway juvenile? No.
Yes.
No, I didn't. Not for the rape.
Do you know who that officer is? Do you recall? Have you ever interviewed him?
No.
Does Officer Ryan White sound familiar to you at all?
And it does. There's 1,100 of us, so
Well, you would agree with me that it would have been very, very simple for you if you wanted to identify that officer, would it not?
yes,
You just chose not to.
that's correct.
But then again, it didn't cause you any concern that Miss Hill doesn't remember anything about that, does it?
She was in the ER at that time, room number 16. She couldn't go on out. She was being treated for her condition.
And her condition was she was overdosing on PCP.
That's her condition.
And you would agree with me that PCP is an extremely dangerous drug.
Yes.
And you would agree with me that PCP, I'm assuming you've had experience with it in your capacity as a police officer, makes some people feel like they're superhuman.
Some people, yes.
And a lot of times, that's what we see on TV when it takes 8 or 9 police officers to take someone down to the floor. A lot of times, those people are on PCP, are they not?
That's more rare than not. No, it
Oh,
isn't.
jeez. Yeah.
That's more
Okay.
common.
Right. Just so we're clear on the record, you're saying it's rare for people on PCP to be highly combative with the police?
Most people on PCP don't get that combative, but there are several occasions where that has happened.
PCP. The main effect of PCP, for the benefit of the jury, is it makes people hallucinate,
Yes, that's true.
meaning they perceive events real that aren't happening.
It can cause hallucinations, yes.
That's the main effect of PCP, is it not?
I can't speak to the main effect for PCP, but that is one of the side effects that can be caused.
Well, while she's undergoing treatment for the overdosing of PCP, and Officer Holtzclaw is out apprehending other fleeing felons, Ms. Hill doesn't recall any of that happening, correct?
No,
She doesn't recall any of this, any of that happening, of him leaving her at all, correct?
far as this scene right here,
Yes.
yeah, she wasn't. She was in the ER.
Which is my next question. You've testified on direct that this is a still shot from a videotape.
Yes, that's what I was told.
Okay. Where is the videotape that shows the still shot?
I don't know. This is all that they said that they had. Okay.
Did you request the full entire video that this screenshot is taken from?
Yes.
And it wasn't provided to you?
No, this is what they said. That's all they had.
They had to produce the still shot from something, correct?
Well, that's correct.
And it's your testimony that every 2 weeks the system is purged, correct?
No, I never said that.
How often is the system purged? The videotape.
That one, I don't know.
My question is very simple. How is this still shot take from a videotape that does not exist?
I requested all footage of Mr. Holtzclaw be provided, and this is all they had.
Did you call him back and say, you tell me that this is a still shot from a video. Where's the video?
I asked for all the footage. I talked to them again. I said, is this all you have? And they said, yes, this is all they had.
Did you ask him how he produced it?
How he produced it?
Yes.
No.
Also, I have noticed that there is not any sort of a date or timestamp on this photograph, correct?
Not on this, no.
But you testified on direct examination that you learned that this photograph, taken off the videotape, was at a particular time on the 20th of December of 2013.
Yes, the safety director advised that it was at 20:41 hours.
The safety, and did you ask him for any? We've seen a lot of documents in this case. Did you ask him for any backup documents so we could go back and look to verify that, in fact, that's the exact time that this was taken?
No, I had no reason to doubt his knowledge over their system and the time.
That's not my question. My question is very simple. Did you request any backup documents so we can verify that it is what you say it is?
Backup documents, there was no.
Now, during your conversation with Ms. Hill, she tells you all the things that allegedly happened to her at the hospital, correct?
Yes.
And you've shown us photographs of the room. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
This is the room where the alleged assaults took place. Is that correct?
No, you'll have to show me a different angle there.
Is this the room where the assaults allegedly took place?
Yes, looking out the room, yes.
Okay. This is the second room, correct? That she was taken to in the hospital.
Yes.
And you'd agree with me that as soon as you exit and you turn left here, there's a nurse's station right down in here, right down this hallway, correct?
Yes, to the left, yes.
And right across the room is the medical supplies.
I think that's medical supplies, yes.
Well, did you look? You went out there and looked at the scene. Did you see if that's medical supplies?
I'd call them medical supplies. It might not have been.
Be important to you to know whether or not that is medical supplies directly outside the room where Ms. Hill says all these assaults took place.
No.
It wouldn't be important for you to know whether or not people were coming and going directly across the room all night long? That wouldn't be important?
That's a dead-end hallway, and the far as it being medical supplies didn't have anything to do with her being assaulted.
Okay, so it's
Um,
not, just so that I'm clear, it's not important to you whether or not this is a high traffic area where people having to come and get medical supplies all night long and the whole time she's in there, right? That's what we're telling this jury.
Yes.
And it's also not important to you that the nurse's station, this is the room right here, correct? That's the room that Ms. Hill is allegedly in, correct?
No, it's looking back down the hallway. I'm not in the room.
I'm the door.
You're the door?
I'm the
I
door.
don't have it preloaded either.
I'm not trying to be cute here, but you took these photographs, correct?
I took them, yes, and Southwest took some, which is the real truth. Byron Boschke
And
took the photographs, didn't he?
Oh, I don't know about that. I will
I
do some
think
checking though.
okay. I think that's true.
Yeah, makes sense.
and the way you took this photograph is you exited her room, looked down the hallway, and you snapped a photo.
Yes.
You looked to your left, correct?
Yes, there is. I took from each angle.
But this particular photograph, and I'm referring to 112, you walked outside of the door and you faced left and you took a picture.
Yes, I did take a photograph stepping out and facing left.
And that's what this photograph is.
And also there's one to the right as well, too.
And this one I'm talking about is to the left, correct?
That doesn't quite look to the left. I'd have to see that second one there.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, why don't you ask the question so it's clear what it is you want him to find?
Ugh, jerk.
All I'm saying is when you exit her room where Miss Hill was located and you turn, you look to your left, this is what you would see, correct?
This one here, Exhibit 113, is to the left.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes,
So 114,
Okay. This is stepping out of Miss Hill's room looking to the left.
yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me, this is a nurse's station.
Yes.
That's where a nurse sits and where alarm bells and things happen if anyone goes into distress, correct?
It can be set up that it's not set up like that all the time from what I've understood.
Well, tell the jury about what efforts you made to determine who was sitting here on December the 20th of 2013 while Ms. Hill was in this room.
As far as what I found out, no one.
You found out that no one was sitting there.
Well, I didn't find anyone that said that they were sitting there.
Oh my God, Rocky. Because you never asked anyone, did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I want you to show me in the thousands of reports that I have in this case where you've asked anyone in the world who was sitting here on December the 20th of 2013. Just refer me wherever it is. I want to see it.
Conversations with Jamie Hong, the nurse. The other nurse who also said he only checked on her 1 to 2 hours.
I'm trying not to
don't know
play
what to
games
check on
here,
her.
Detective Gregory. I'm trying. This is a very serious matter. Would you agree with me?
I agree.
Okay. Then I want you to tell me out of the thousands and thousands of pages of documents and reports that I have in this case, where you simply ever asked anyone in the entire world who was stationed here on December the 20th of 2014. Can you point me to anything?
Right now, I can't, but I verified it.
And you nod and you say you verified. Is that just we're supposed to take your word at this?
That's what I'm saying under oath.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Well, then under oath, if no one was here under your scenario, so when you go back and subpoena the records, you're telling this jury that there will be no one who was placed here on December the 20th of 2013 under oath, correct?
Under oath, I found no one that was there that night.
And you asked that question.
I asked that question.
And you asked it of
I asked it of the nurses that were there.
the nurses whose reports that I have?
Yes, anybody that I talked to, even ex-Captain Byron Boschel.
You would agree with me that in all the reports that I have of all the staff members at Southwest Medical, there's not one single individual in one single report that ever tells you anything about that nurse's station and no one being there.
Going back to the reports,
Yes, Rocky.
that's correct.
That would
What
be
would Byron
significant.
Boschel be doing working in the middle of the night?
Yeah, he was a daytime security guard, if I'm not mistaken.
That was my understanding. I didn't think he was on a graveyard shift at the hospital.
Mm-mm. Not the information I remember reading, but I don't know for sure.
But maybe he was asking him so that he could tell him what was in the video that he didn't provide.
Right?
Yeah, but not only that. If he's normally on the day shift, then he's not going to be there on the bloody night shift to be able to ask him that question.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? He is such an idiot, and I don't know how this man has managed to make detective. I tell you, Jesus.
Kidding. Just fucking lying his ass off here. That would be significant, would it not, if someone was stationed out there?
Well, that's correct.
Now, after Ms. Hill says these events happened, and she tells you that actually what happens is they spend about, Officer Holtzclaw and Ms. Hill are together for about 6 hours, correct?
Yes, sounds right.
Poor Daniel. From the time of the incident at the apartment complex.
Wait, was that Stacy? Sorry. Did I hear somebody say poor Daniel?
Oh, I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
6 hours he was with her.
Yeah.
From the time of the incident at the apartment complex to the hospital to while he's transporting her down to the county jail, we've got about 6 hours.
Yeah, that sounds right.
During that 6 hours, would it not be normal for a cop or a police officer to make small talk with an individual?
That's correct.
And you would expect them to do that, would you not?
Yes, I'd expect it.
You would certainly expect a police officer to be cordial and polite, would you not?
Yes.
Because under your term of community sentencing, all that really means in Oklahoma City is to go to functions, to go to churches and things of that nature. It's not to talk to individuals or to be compassionate towards one. It's simply to go to organized functions, right?
You said community sentencing?
Community policing. I apologize.
Hey, hang on a second. I need to grab my power cord. I had to move away from the snoring dog.
I think he said community policing, but I could be wrong.
Oh, you're right. I said policing. Sorry.
Well, it's very frustrating reading when you have to sit through this Rocky Gregory bullshit.
Policy.
We all get a little crazy listening to Rocky. Not crazy, but discombobulated. I don't know.
Sorry, guys. Hang on.
Oh, you're fine. I'll just say that during direct, which again, I promise I will post tonight in the Discord room, Rocky Gregory makes this big deal under direct examination that community policing, it only involves going to organizations to, speaking about what's going on in the community and going to schools and talking about, going to city, whatever meetings, just basically going to meetings and talking about what's going on in the community. Has nothing to do with interacting with people in public. And,
Is that what
just checking with
policing
citizens.
is?
That's what policing is, yes. So, but that's what Scott Adams is getting at here. Like, that's not all community policing is. I mean, community policing.
All right, I'm back.
Sweet.
Line 14?
Yes.
Community policing it's just that. Just like I tried to explain earlier, it's going to meetings. That's more community policing. Not just being nice and being an officer. That's just being courteous.
Okay.
Yes.
So is it okay to be courteous if you're an Oklahoma City police officer?
Yes.
Okay. So if Officer Holtzclaw was having conversations with Ms. Hill, you would expect them, or you'd expect him, would you not, to be courteous?
Yes, I would.
And during this, you heard what Ms. Hill testified to was she said that she was transported to the Oklahoma County Jail, correct?
Yes.
And she said that she was booked in on felony charges, possession of PCP, and destruction of evidence.
Yes.
And that, in fact, happened.
And oh wait, yes. Sorry.
And we've seen the probable cause affidavit where Officer Holtzclaw filled out what his probable cause was for placing her under arrest for the felony offenses, correct?
Yes.
And that seemed to be accurate.
Yes.
He didn't try to hide anything there.
No.
Then what happens is later on, and the way that, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
As happens in every felony case, it's assigned to a detective, correct?
Yes.
I mean, just for the benefit of the jury, the way that this works in the real world and here in Oklahoma City is if there's a felony offense that's alleged committed around a police officer, they can book them in on the felony offenses, but it's assigned to the detective division really to decide what we're going to do with them.
That's correct.
And Officer Holtzclaw did his job and booked her in on the felony offenses, correct?
Yes.
However, when the detectives got a hold of it, they decided it was a little bit more serious than what Officer Holtzclaw had booked her in on, correct?
I'm second guessing what their thinking was, but yes, they did.
Well, their thinking was it, and you covered this in direct examination, their thinking was Officer Holtzclaw had booked her in on possession of PCP, but they believed that she ought to be facing the charge of possession of PCP with intent.
That's correct.
But intent would mean that she's attempting to sell it, correct?
Yes.
She's selling it to members in our community.
Yes, that is the charge.
So Officer Holtzclaw did no favor to her by booking that property in at the property room, did he?
Not with the property, no.
Because if he wanted to, he could have just gotten rid of that stuff, and then we wouldn't be sitting here in regard to her looking at any time on possession with intent, would we?
Well, that would be a destruction of evidence on his part, so no.
It would be. Well, also, Officer Holtzclaw, if he wasn't so detailed in his probable cause affidavit, that's the only place they go to get the intent, correct?
Well, they could see how much was booked in. On drug charges, the officer might not know how much there is anyway. And then a detective will also look at how much there is and then kind of gauge off of that.
Okay. And the detectives felt that possession with intent, selling it, would be the more appropriate charge.
Yes.
And that's what she actually got charged with.
Yes.
Now, but you heard Ms. Hill testify because you believe Ms. Hill, correct?
Yes.
You heard her testify that she doesn't sell drugs.
Yes.
And you heard her testify that not only does she not sell drugs, she doesn't know anything about drugs.
She alluded to something like that, yes.
But really, the Oklahoma City Police Department thinks she knows a little bit more than she's telling, correct?
As far as on that charge?
Yes.
On that charge, yes.
Yeah. Well, are you allowed in our community to pick and choose when you're going to lie and not lie?
For who to lie and not lie?
For anybody in the world. Is it okay for people to lie and then not lie? Just pick and choose when they think it's a good time.
Well, people do it all the time. Like I'm doing it all through this trial testimony. So
Exactly.
I can't stand this man.
That's not my question, Rocky. Is that okay to do that?
my own personal opinion?
Yes.
No.
So, in any event, although Ms. Hill says she's not a drug dealer, the Oklahoma City Police Department thought that she was. And so did the DA's office when they filed the charges. So did the DA's office when they filed the charges, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Repeat, please.
Although Ms. Hill says she is not a drug dealer, the Oklahoma City Police Department, along with the Oklahoma County DA's office, disagrees with that and thinks she is more, correct?
They do disagree.
And again, that wasn't Officer Holtzclaw's decision. That was what happens in every case that goes through the detective division, correct?
Yes.
That is not an uncommon occurrence where the detectives will ramp up the charges and make them more serious
Yes.
than the patrol officer.
Yes.
Okay, then you would agree with me that as we go through all these records, that during the stop, Ms. Hill told you that she gave Officer Holtzclaw her sister's name.
Yes.
So she told you she'd lied to Officer Holtzclaw.
Yes.
And she told you that, and you knew that to be true too, because you saw where the CIU, let's strike all that. CIU is what the officers called in from the streets to determine whether or not there's any wants or warrants on an individual, correct?
Yes.
You would agree within this case that Shardarion Hill's name was never submitted to CIU by Daniel Holtzclaw.
That's correct.
In fact, that name was submitted by Officer Cruz, correct?
Yes.
Along with Janae Stafford.
Yes.
And Ms. Stafford was cleared, correct?
Yes.
And it notes on there on the documents that have been introduced that was produced under Cruz's last name that Shardarion Hill had 8 outstanding warrants.
Yes.
Then what happens is whenever they get to the jail, she is booked in under Shardarion Hill, correct?
Yes.
And she's charged under Shardarion Hill?
Yes, she was charged even before, yes.
Then you heard the lady testify this morning who works over there at the Oklahoma County, at the jail actually, correct?
She's with our city marshals, yes.
City Marshal's office. She works over there at the jail, correct?
In coordination, yes.
And her whole job is to sit there and add city warrants onto people, correct?
I don't think that's her whole job, but that's part of it.
You heard what she testified to. Do you have any reason to dispute anything that she said?
Well, I think she understands on her side of it. I don't know. I don't think she understands on the officer's side of how we handle just putting charges on.
You'd agree with me that she does this on a daily basis,
Her job? Yes.
Monday through Friday.
Yes.
And she said she does it every day where she has to add charges.
Yes.
Okay. And that's not unusual at all, is exactly what she said.
That's correct.
Now, but with what Ms. Hill tells you is that he hid her tickets, correct?
Yes.
He didn't hide them very well because they came up within a day, correct?
I feel like he did, yes. Like,
What?
You
what
feel
the
like he did because he
Who the
didn't
hell-
put it in a folder when she
Sorry.
was booked in, correct?
That's correct.
But you would agree with me, he didn't run the CIU on Chardarion Hill, correct?
That's correct.
The person who did that was Officer Cruz, and he's nowhere to be seen while we're at the jail, correct?
Correct.
So when Officer Holtzclaw fills it out and it's caught within a day, she's charged with all that stuff, with all those warrants from the city, correct?
She, yes.
But what Ms. Hill tells you is that Officer Holtzclaw assured her that her charges would go away within 30 days of her arrest.
Yes, she,
And you would agree with me that that did not happen.
I agree.
And they have never gone away.
Yes.
You would also agree with me that there is a million different ways that Officer Holtzclaw could have gone about it to help lessen the blow for Miss Chardarion Hill if he chose to.
I don't think so.
Could he have possibly have made contact with the detective that ramped it up to possession with intent and told him not to do that?
I guess he could have, but I've never had that happen.
He certainly could have contacted the Detective Bureau and requested that they not do that. Could he not?
Under what ground, I don't know.
Whatever grounds he chose to.
No, that would be extremely rare.
Well, he could also just not turn in his probable cause, could he not?
No, he had to arrest her.
He had to arrest, so he had to turn in that probable cause.
He did.
So are you telling me that every officer that brings a prisoner down there to the jail turns in a probable cause?
Not every officer. Some officers do misdemeanor arrests, which you don't need probable cause. Since the lieutenant had already authorized the arrest of her, she was going to jail no matter what.
He could have even picked up the phone and called the assistant DA who's handling Ms. Hill's case and told him to cut her a break, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could have.
And in fact, a police officer interact with the DA's office on a daily basis, do they not?
Not police officers, no.
Just detectives,
Mainly.
people in your position.
Yes, sir.
So it would have been unusual if Officer Holtzclaw would have contacted the DA's office and asked for any leniency in regard to Ms. Hill.
Yes, sir.
But we certainly have no evidence he did that either, do we?
That's correct.
Do we know that the charges were actually filed on Ms. Hill, correct? We do know
Yeah.
that. And there's been zero evidence whatsoever that Officer Holtzclaw has in any way, shape, or form tried to thwart that process, correct?
On the felony charges?
Yes.
No.
Are you agreeing with me?
I'm agreeing.
Now, Ms. Hill also told you that she told some people about these alleged sexual events that happened at Southwest Medical, correct?
Yes.
And one of the people that she told about was Janae.
She said she couldn't remember whether she told her or not.
But she thought she had told her cousin Janae, correct?
She thought she might have.
But you went out and tried to confirm that, didn't you?
I did.
You went out and talked to Janae?
Yes.
And she absolutely was clueless about any of these allegations that allegedly happened on December the 20th of 2013, correct?
Yes.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, she was very reserved in talking with me. Okay.
Do you think she was being honest with you?
Yes and no.
She kind of pick and choose?
Yeah, I'd say that too.
A lot like Miss Hill?
No, not at all like Miss Hill.
Well, so Janae, she tells you that never told me anything about any sexual deals between her and Holtzclaw. She'd tell you that she never even told her that Hill never told Janae that her charges were going to go away in 30 days.
That's correct.
And Ms. Stafford, she was sitting in the truck while they were smoking PCP, correct?
Yes.
She certainly could have been arrested for possession of PCP too, correct?
According to the arrest report, it was no. I originally wondered that too. Why?
Hello?
You went away. You went away, Kay.
What happened?
You went away.
Gosh, yeah.
Oh,
Line 20.
according to the police report, it was no. I originally wondered that too, why she wasn't placed under arrest, but the report said that the report I read was that Miss Hill said it was hers.
When Janae was interviewed by you, she admitted to smoking PCP in that truck, didn't she?
To me, yes.
And she admitted to a felony. She's admitting to a felony, is she not?
Objection, calls for hearsay, Your Honor. Overruled.
Let me ask you this. Is she admitting that she had committed a felony offense in our community here when she told you she was sitting in that truck smoking PCP?
Miss Stafford?
Yes.
Yes.
So did you cut her a break?
That wasn't even my case. I was there to investigate the assault, sexual assault.
Don't you take an oath to uphold the duties of a police officer, and anyone you see breaking the law or you know that's broken the law, you're supposed to bring them to justice.
And I was supposed to arrest her for what?
I don't know. She admitted to you the felony offense, not me. What can you do?
I was there to investigate a victim who had been sexually assaulted. I wasn't there. I was trying to gain her confidence and rapport. I was trying to gain rapport with her to try to relax and try to tell me the truth about what she knew. Threatening her or any victim or any witness in this matter, it makes it very difficult for them to try to trust us.
Because it makes it very difficult as a police officer, does it not? For you to be unflexible with people, correct?
Unflexible.
Yes,
We are flexible.
you are flexible. That's part of being a cop, is it not?
It's part, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you actually
Really quick, I just have to say he basically just played Rocky there, and Rocky fell right into it. Carry on.
yeah, and you
'cause
actually have
he can build rapport. He can build rapport, but Daniel's not allowed to build rapport.
right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And you actually have to gain some people's confidence and trust, don't you?
Yes.
And certainly whether Officer Holtzclaw was naive or gullible or whatever, you would admit with me, I'm sure you would agree with me that even Ms. Hill told you that she was telling him, Officer Holtzclaw, that she didn't know anything about drugs and she was just a schoolgirl, correct?
Repeat that. I can't retain more than 6 words at a time.
Evidently. Would you agree with me that Miss Hill was telling Officer Holtzclaw that she was a schoolgirl and she knew nothing about drugs?
That's what she told me she told him.
And it's your position, and I think you testified to this on direct, that it is against Oklahoma City policy for any officer to make contact with anyone that they've arrested.
Yes. In a criminal light, yes.
And in what policy is that a violation of?
It's Police Association 350.0.
The police association, is that your policy here in Oklahoma City?
It's under the rule book, under our policy procedure, man.
That's 3 what?
350.0.
Your Honor, may I have just one moment? The policy that you refer to states as follows, and correct me if I'm wrong. The department must be responsive to the needs and problems of the community. While the department task is governed by the law, the policies formulated to guide the enforcement of law must include consideration of the public will. This responsiveness must be manifested at all levels of the department by a willingness to listen and be genuine concern for the problems of individuals or groups. The total needs of the community must become an integral part of the programs designed to carry out the mission of this department. Is that what it says?
That does not sound like I might have my numbers wrong.
May I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what is marked as 3.50 and tell me if that's correct.
This under the rules, this doesn't look like the rules.
You want me to find the one that you're talking about then?
I can get back with you on the exact one.
Sure. I cannot fathom in a million years that the city of Oklahoma City would instruct its police officers to have no contact with people that are arrested. And that's why I challenge you in regards to that policy.
Okay.
So do you again? I've read you 350. It didn't say anything you testified to. So again, I'm giving you an opportunity to direct me to the policy that tells the police officer he is not allowed to contact anybody that they've arrested.
There's thousands of policies and procedures, and if I got it wrong, I got it wrong. There's different areas and sections as far as 350. I'd have to have some time with the book to look, but we're not allowed to fraternize with criminal activity afterwards, especially in this case.
Especially
We
in
talked
this
about-
case? Especially, wait, sorry. In this case, you can
That's
do it in
weird.
others. You can kind of fudge with others, but not in this case.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's bizarre, Rocky.
Maybe
talked
he
about-
means in the case of going to someone's house, but
Maybe.
not that I like to give Rocky any benefit of the doubt, but that's probably what he's saying.
Okay.
We talked about community policing. That's just a theory, is it not?
It's roundabout way, yes.
Well, there certainly is not just a hand. I mean, what community policing means is to be responsive to the community, talk to them, integrate with them, acknowledge them, do things with them, become part of them so that you can learn information. You can be a better police officer.
No, I've never heard it in that light.
So you don't believe any of that stuff that I just said?
I'm not saying I didn't believe in it. I'm saying that far as community policing, that's not what's directed with our department. It's more for like reaching out to the community through meetings, you know.
He is
Through
stuck on the
these-
meeting.
Through these organized, because it certainly wouldn't benefit the police department for a police officer to be friendly and polite to someone that has just gone through a felony arrest. Is that what you're telling this jury?
Yeah, that's separate from community policing. That's just being a good officer. Okay.
God.
That's just being a good officer. So it's okay for an Oklahoma City police officer to be friendly and respectful and nice to someone that they've placed under arrest.
Yes.
In fact, I would think that we would encourage that in this community.
Yes.
And so if a police officer truly believes that someone has some redeeming values, someone who's in trouble, just needs a little boost or a little help to get through life and to help them be a better person, it would be inappropriate for a police officer to interact with that person to try to help them achieve the goals of a law-abiding and good, decent, moral human being. That's what you're telling this jury.
Most times, yes. Not in this case, not at all.
Okay. So most times, at any other time, had Officer Holtzclaw not been accused by these individuals of this stuff, then it would be okay for him to have compassion towards people that are under arrest, correct?
Not in that manner either.
So a police officer should not have compassion for people who are going through difficult parts of their life, looking at going to the penitentiary. That shouldn't be compassion toward those people.
In the way you're forming it, yes, they should.
And I would think we would encourage that in our policing here in Oklahoma City, would we not?
Yes.
And I think that we would encourage the police officers to get involved in everyday citizens and people's lives here in our community, would we not?
Yes.
And I would think and pray that we would sit here and we would try to help people who are down, to lift them up to where they could help themselves.
Yes.
And there is certainly nothing wrong with any of that, is there?
Nothing that you said.
Okay. Now, in regards to all these text messages that we have between Officer Holtzclaw and Shardarion Hill, I think you've testified that they last for approximately 90 days.
Give or take, yes.
January, February, and March of 2014, correct?
Part of March, yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that Ms. Hill told you that nothing inappropriate or wrong was being talked about on those text messages, correct?
That's correct.
And we have about 108 text messages during that 3-month period of time, correct?
117, yes. We have where they sent texts. I don't know if anything, what the content was.
Okay. But there's certainly, you would agree with me that even under Ms. Hill's assertions, there was nothing inappropriate said on any of those text messages, correct?
I just recall about Facebook that there wasn't. I don't recall anything about anything on the texting.
Okay. You would agree with me that we have absolutely zero documents in regards to what was said on those text messages, correct?
That's correct.
And you would agree with me that Ms. Hill is the only human being in the world that we know of that could have screenshot some of those text messages for us, correct?
Besides Mr. Holtzclaw, that's correct.
All right. Well, Mr. Holtzclaw is not the one who, at the time, was facing a felony offense of possession of PCP, correct?
At that time, no. I wonder if he had deleted those off of his phone.
Yeah, I wonder too.
I don't know what his practice was with cleaning up. I mean, I have every text message I've basically ever sent or received from anyone since I got a cell phone. I don't
Yeah, me
delete
too.
that stuff.
I don't either.
But I know people who keep their text log cleaned up all the time.
Yeah, that's too much work for me. But
I
It's
mean,
something I've never
some
looked
people
at.
just delete them as they read them and, delete.
Yeah.
Okay. So you understand that it's not his burden in this courtroom, correct? It's your burden, the government's burden, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, so we don't have any of those text messages, but you did hear Ms. Hill testify that, in fact, they did have some inappropriate conversations and it was all by phone, correct?
Yes, yes, there was some by phone.
Yeah, she said that. There was some by phone. And you said on direct examination, it was in voice by phone, correct?
Was by voice on some.
You would agree with me that in this case, that you have issued subpoenas for all the contact between Ms. Hill and Officer Holtzclaw and his cell number, correct?
Subpoenas were issued.
And we've introduced them into evidence, correct?
Yes.
And I think it's 145. And if you look on there, you'll see that there are only 2 phone calls where Mr. Holtzclaw during this period of time to Ms. Hill, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And those 2 phone calls, it is uncontested. It is not that those took.
Is it not?
Is it
Is it
not?
not?
And those 2 phone calls, it is uncontested, is it not, that those took 2 phone calls, each of them are 5 seconds long.
Yes.
So we know for a fact that if she's saying that something inappropriate was discussed on the telephone, that's not true because there simply isn't enough time for it to have happened, is it?
Since we went through so many cell phones, I don't know if there was other cell phones involved, but the ones she could recall is the ones that we got the subpoenas for. So on those, you're correct. Well, all those records are on Holtzclaw's phone, so that's a dumb argument.
yeah, that was stupid.
I'm not going to sit here and play ifs, ands, and buts with you. I'm talking about the real deal and what we've got to deal with, okay? Are you with me, detective?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained. Just ask a question.
Butthead, do we have anything other than what is provided to us what is provided to show us that there was any other phone calls other than those 2 phone calls and that each of them lasting a total of 5 seconds each?
Of just what we have today,
Of what we have, the only thing I've been provided, the only thing that Mr. Holtzclaw's been provided, the only thing that we have, period.
yes, of everything we've been provided today, that is it. That's correct.
So when she talks about these inappropriate things were said, Does it not lead you to think maybe she's not being honest about that? Because it simply doesn't show up in the hard records.
As far as the stuff, I know as far as Facebook and things, she kept on trying he kept on trying to get her to call him or vice versa. But as far as those 2 phone calls, no, that you're talking about.
Okay, let's take a look at these Facebook things. We start with January the 8th, and this page goes down to February the 10th of 2014. These are the Facebook things you're talking about, correct?
I believe so.
The very first one is Ms. Hill talking to Mr. Holtzclaw. Damn, it took you long enough. Been waiting, LOL. You still got my number, right? And Holtzclaw responds back, is this your sister's account? Ms. Hill. And it says Hooks. But Ms. Hooks is Ms. Hill, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Hill then says, no, it's mine. I'm the one that you had. My twin is Charmarion. Oh, thanks for looking out for me that night, LOL. And then gives her phone number. Make it ring.
Yes.
That doesn't concern you that this lady is telling you, has told you at this point in time that she's been sexually tortured by Officer Holtzclaw, correct? She told you it happened at Southwest Medical Center. Would you agree with me that she's been sexually tortured by Officer Holtzclaw?
Objection to the form of the question, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes.
Okay. Now, after she's saying she's been sexually tortured, she's talking to him and says, make it ring, and laughing out loud. And that to you, again, is of no significance, correct?
Yeah, she was appreciative for the tickets to be hidden.
What? What?
Oh my God. That weren't hidden.
But there is no evidence whatsoever Officer
Why doesn't
Holtzclaw even called her, is there?
Why doesn't he ask Rocky to explain the process of how one would hide tickets?
No kidding.
Well,
Um,
I think I don't know if he's going to beyond this, but I think when he was talking about Alan Cruz having, or maybe didn't he ask about Alan Cruz having been the one to write tickets for? Oh, never mind.
no, that
Never mind.
was Alan
That was
Cruz
on
was in the hospital and Daniel was helping him retrieve the runaway that
Oh,
fled.
okay, not Alan.
That was
Uh,
something White or Ryan something.
I can't remember. Never mind.
Randy
yeah. I
White.
mean, you're right.
Some officer
maybe.
I've never heard of.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, but you're right. He should be.
Oh,
hammering
wait.
that for sure.
Oh, wait. I have that confused. You're right. It was Alan Cruz. I'm sorry. It was Alan Cruz at the scene, and it was that other officer I've never heard of in the hospital. So you were correct, Rhonda.
Well, it just seemed like they talked about, like Adams asked him about Alan Cruz having written tickets, or was that he had put some information into CIU? I can't remember now, but I felt like
He was
it had
just
kind of.
Yeah, he
Go
was
ahead.
just saying that Alan Cruz is the one who ran the CIU on Hill.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that
And
day.
so Daniel wouldn't have seen that she had 8 outstanding warrants.
Right. Okay.
So-
I got confused.
I mean,
Wait.
how do you hide some tickets that have already been entered into the
Yeah.
record? That's
Just-
not like he has
and-
access to edit the county
And
or
basically,
city.
Rocky is saying here that she's appreciative for the tickets to be hidden. Like he did it.
Yeah, he knows
Yeah.
he can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, oh gosh. Okay, I'm sorry I messed up that whole line of thought, but okay.
Um,
I'm 14.
yeah, she was appreciative for the tickets to be hidden.
But there is no evidence whatsoever Officer Holtzclaw even called her, is there?
Called her on that number?
Yes.
No.
And Officer Holtzclaw sends her back. I can't tell a difference between you and your sister. Obviously, you guys are twins. You staying out of trouble? Smiley face? You better be. Again, this is allegedly Officer Holtzclaw sending this to a supposed victim of a sexual torture, correct?
Yes, also the felon he arrested, correct?
The felon
Correct.
that he arrested that possibly, just possibly, do you think he may be trying to help get out of the dredges of where she is?
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh, what an
Not at
ass.
all,
No.
because police officers don't think like that.
Like this? No.
They don't.
No.
They don't have any compassion for people, do they?
That's not compassion. That's trying to hook up with her.
He's trying to hook up with her when he tells her, I can't tell the difference between you and your sister. Obviously, you guys are twins. You staying out of trouble? You better be. That is a pickup line to you?
What we know, yes.
What?
For fuck's sake. What we know. What we know is we don't even have any phone calls.
To this very moment, no, that's correct.
Then she says, hey, I lost my phone. Stopping by seeing what been up to. She's reaching out to him. Stopping by, meaning she's checking in on Facebook to see what he's been up to, right?
That's correct.
She's reaching out to her supposed torturer.
Overcharges, yes.
Jesus.
And Daniel Holtzclaw says, just hanging out. How you been? How you been? Yeah, you see anything nefarious and twisted about that?
That one line, no.
I've been okay. Still working on getting it together. You hanging out at your house? So she tells him she's working on it. She's trying to get better, right? Isn't that what she's telling him?
You'll have to zoom that in a little bit better.
You see it?
Yeah.
I've been okay, working on getting it together. You hanging out at your house?
Yes.
She's telling you. She's telling Officer Holtzclaw she's working on getting it together, meaning getting her life together. Am I taking that the wrong way? Am I being too cynical there?
No, that's correct.
And he texts back, yep. I guess that means yes in social media talk. I don't know, but poor English. But is that what you take it as?
I'm with you, yep.
Oh my
And
God.
then
he's such a dick. Sorry.
he says, what up? Again, awful English, but again, it appears to be just checking in. Now, we're on the date. It appears to be February the 13th. And then after he says, what up, he gives his telephone number, that 580. There's no dispute that Officer Holtzclaw's cell phone number, correct?
Yes.
And it's absolutely the only cell phone number that we have any record of was that Officer Holtzclaw has any use of during this period of time that we know of, correct?
Yes.
And again, back in February, we don't have any phone calls where she ever called that number, do we?
No,
So we know that she never did, right?
that's correct.
And then Officer Holtzclaw says, get on your phone. You see that?
Yeah. Said, get on your phone.
And that Shardarian replies back, hey, went to sleep last night. I'm on the road to Dallas right now. You see that?
Yes.
Then it appears 2 days later on the 15th day of February says, UNOKC, Mr. Officer Holtzclaw to Ms. Hill, correct?
Yes.
And then Officer Holtzclaw says, making sure you're doing okay and staying out of trouble, right?
Yes.
That's what he is sending to his alleged person that he's been torturing, correct?
Yes. The arrested felon. Correct.
And Ms. Hill fires back a giant smiley face,
Yes.
right? And that's certainly what you'd expect from someone who's been sexually molested by a member of our Oklahoma City Police Department. You would expect the victim to be firing back smiley faces at them.
Every victim who's been sexually assaulted in this type of manner by their perpetrators gonna handle it different than everybody. She's trying to get out of charges, so she's playing a game.
Well, some people who actually get sexually assaulted actually call the police, don't they?
Yes, not all.
Well, then after she sends that to him, she says, I'm back now, and yeah, I'm trying to stay out of the way. And you heard what she said is that she's just trying to stay, trying to be good, right?
Yes, that's how I take it.
And then Officer Holtzclaw on the 19th of February, some 4 or 5 days later, says, what you doing? Then he tells her, your number is broke. And then she gives him a new phone number, correct? See that new number?
Yes.
And she gave that to him, correct?
Yes.
And then he asked for the first time, how did court go? This would have been February the 28th. Although it all looks like all this took place at once, this is over several months. Would you agree with me in that regard?
Yes, sir.
And for the first time, Officer Holtzclaw asked her, hey, how did court go? Correct?
Yes. Yes.
Apparently, he hadn't checked in with anyone at the courthouse or anything like that. Would you agree with that?
That's correct.
Okay. And she says that she went back to jail. They made my charge with intent. That's what we've been talking about. It was a different division of Oklahoma City Police Department, and it happens all the time. Take the patrol officer's report, ramp the charges up, and that's what happened to her, right?
Yes.
And Officer Holtzclaw says, huh? What? How you back in jail? He's trying to figure what, he's perplexed, it appears, wondering what she's talking about, right?
Yes.
And Officer Holtzclaw then sends her, and now the date is February 28th, and he says, how'd you go back to jail? He's wanting to know why she had to go back to jail, right?
Yes.
And she responds back, and she tries to explain to him, my bond went up, and my best friend and bondsman got off my bond, basically, is what she's saying. It had nothing to do with Officer Holtzclaw, right?
Right.
But he's still, and you would agree with me at this point in time, Officer Holtzclaw's still a young officer, right? Hadn't been on the streets all that long.
Well, he's been on about 3 years, I thought.
In any event, Officer Holtzclaw says, I'm lost. How did you get arrested again? Did you F up? I'm assuming that means what we all know it means. But you understand what he's asking there?
Yes.
Wanting to know if she screwed up or messed up or got in trouble again, correct?
Yes.
And he has a question mark. And again, he leaves her his phone number, right?
Yes.
Again, we don't have any phone calls from her to him during this period of time, do we?
Yeah, no more.
We don't.
That's correct.
And then she says, my phone is charging. Call you in a minute. But no, I went to see. I don't know. Do you know what that means?
No, I have no idea.
Yeah, call. And then Officer Holtzclaw says, yeah, call me. I want to know what happened. Sound like he's genuinely concerned, correct?
I don't know. I can't answer for genuinely, but he did ask the question.
He follows up with a question mark and his phone number again, correct?
Yes.
And then he follows up with Shar, correct?
Yes.
And again, we don't have any phone calls during that time frame, do we?
That's correct.
Exhibit 121, same thing. His phone number, Shar, and then Charday. Last thing you said is you went back in. Let me know about it. Maybe I can help or explain what's going on. And again, for probably the fourth or fifth time at least, he's giving her his phone number, right?
Yes, he's begging her to call.
Do what?
He's begging her to call, it appears, just agreeing with you.
He's begging? I just don't quite see that in there. I just see that he's given his phone number several times, but you deem that to be begging?
That's how I take it.
Okay, fair enough. And then after he gives it to her, she says, how? Help. How? I don't get it. Now we know for a fact that when that thing sent, when she sends that under her version of events, the charges should have been dismissed several months prior to this, correct?
Let's see, what day are we on? March?
Yes.
Yeah, technically, it should have been the end of January, what he was telling her.
Because she told you and has told this jury that it was a prearranged deal, either a cooperation agreement or a deal that they had, right?
Sort of a deal, yeah.
She never tells him what the deal is on any of these Facebook messages, correct?
No, it wasn't like
She does 180 degrees of the opposite of having a deal or a cooperation agreement, as she terms it. She says, help? How? I don't get it.
Is there a question? Sorry.
Yes.
What's the question?
Would you agree with me that that's 180 degrees different from what she says was really the deal? Because she said that she knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to have her charges dismissed.
I don't think she knew how he was going to do it. He was just telling her he was going to do it, and now since the charges didn't get dismissed and he keeps on saying he's going to help her, I mean, that was kind of a good question. How's he going to do it?
Officer Holtzclaw responds back, and the date is March the 5th. And he says to her in no uncertain terms, "You got to call me. I can't talk through Facebook. I don't know your details," correct?
Yes.
Okay. Up until this point, to that point in time, do we have any records showing that Shardarian had ever called Officer Holtzclaw?
I'm not sure. No, Shardarian did not.
Shardarian, do we have any phone calls from Officer Holtzclaw to her?
No.
Then approximately 2.5 weeks passes, and he sends her another text that says, "Hey, I'm going to pick you up. Where are you at?" What we know for a fact now is she's actually in prison in Texas, correct?
Yes.
But Officer Holtzclaw apparently does not know that, correct?
Correct, I assume.
If he did, he wouldn't be sitting here firing on Facebook, correct?
I assume.
So she's gone in prison, and him not knowing that, he tells her, "Hey, I'm going to," and he had asked her before, told her he didn't understand her details. He says, "Hey, I'm going to pick you up. Where are you at?" And he gets no response, correct?
That's correct.
Then the very last entry we have is in April. I think that's the April the 30th, where he says, Sade, hey, you got a warrant out for your arrest. And we know for a fact that she did, didn't she?
Yes.
Says, try to get that taken care of. I'm worried about you. I know you're a good person. Stay out of trouble. Now, you take that to be something sinister, correct?
All of this, yes.
Okay. Because we certainly would not want to believe that an Oklahoma City police officer is having any compassion toward anyone here in Oklahoma City area, correct?
To a felon that they just arrested,
Right.
Why
who's a drug
not?
dealer,
Right.
to contact him on Facebook, call him on the phone, things like that. No, we don't do that
Okay.
at all.
So now are you saying that Shardarion is a drug dealer?
No, just using your terms.
Well, either she is or she isn't. And that's not for me to decide, but if this was a compassionate cop, police officer, trying to assist someone in our community that's having a hard time, that would be inappropriate under your version of events, correct?
Under this whole scenario that we're watching,
Right.
absolutely it's inappropriate.
Because we take out what Shardarion says some 5 months later when she meets with you and says that she was assaulted. If we don't have that in there, then do you have a problem with any of this?
Absolutely. We don't.
So that answers my question. You do have a problem with an officer here in Oklahoma City being compassionate and caring toward members in the general public.
Under what you just said, no. This, yes. You can take out the sexual assault. This is still inappropriate to do with an open case on a felony arrest.
So it is inappropriate then, under your scenario, although we can't find the policy, that's just your opinion, correct?
It's the opinion of Oklahoma City Police Department.
Okay, so do you speak for the entire city of Oklahoma City Police Department?
That this is inappropriate?
Yes.
Yes, I will.
Okay. After Shardarion told you that she had borrowed that truck before and she knew who the owner was, did you ever ascertain who that individual was or make any efforts to do so?
Objection asked and answered.
All right, I believe it has been.
You stated that in Shardarion's statement to you and in the evidence you obtained off Facebook that you believe that every time anything inappropriate was discussed, it had to be by voice on the telephone, correct? He wouldn't do it by text message or on Facebook.
Well, that's what I gathered, in person or over the phone.
We know for a fact, even under Shardarion's scenario, they only met in person on 2 occasions, correct?
Yes, Shardarian only met him.
And I apologize. Shardarion, they were only face to face on 2 separate occasions under her version of events, correct?
That's correct.
So the phone calls. And I think we've established we can't find any other than the 2 5-seconds, correct?
Objection asked and answered. Are you laying a foundation for another question?
I'm laying a foundation.
All right, overruled.
Ask again, please.
We've already established that on the phone conversations, all we can find are the 2 for 5 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There is no other phone numbers we're aware of that anyone has any evidence of that Officer Holtzclaw ever gave to Shardarion or that she gave to him other than what we've seen, correct?
Yes.
And we have found no other phone records anywhere in the world that exist showing they ever had a phone conversation for longer than 5 seconds.
Correct.
And you would also agree with me that in all the phone records we have, and you've heard everyone's testimony, that there was a phone call placed around midnight on December the 20th of 2013 from Officer Holtzclaw's phone to Shardarion's mother, correct?
Yes.
And that phone conversation took about 8 minutes, correct? Give or take. And I'm not trying to be precise.
Yes.
I'm just giving you a range. And we heard what was said in that. We never were able to find a second phone conversation in any of those phone records, correct?
That's correct.
May I have just one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
You would agree with me that all the photographs you've introduced at Southwest Medical Center were taken in the afternoon during the week.
Yes.
Okay. You would agree with me that this event that happened where Sherdarion had to get taken to the hospital when Ms. Hill went to the hospital was on a Friday night.
I don't know if it was Friday. Yes, it was at night.
Okay. Friday going into Saturday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She got there Friday night and was discharged Saturday early morning, right after midnight, correct?
Yes, sir.
That there is no one, and you interviewed several individuals at Southwest Medical Center, correct?
Yes.
There's no one at Southwest Medical Center that in any way, shape, or form saw anything that was even remotely inappropriate by anyone's standards on behalf of Officer Holtzclaw on December the 20th of 2013, correct?
Yes.
Now, you're the one, detective, that conducted the interview of Ms. Hill that we've discussed, and you'd agree with me that it's all videotaped, correct?
Yes.
And you heard my statements at the very end of Ms. Hill's testimony. You heard my questions that I've asked her, correct? At the end of her testimony, correct? Where I'm describing what's happening on the video as you're wrapping it up.
I believe so.
And I'm assuming that after you heard those questions, I'm assuming that you went back and checked the video
The video
of Ms. Hill's
the interview?
interview. Yes.
I don't recall if I watched the whole thing or I take notes during my interviews.
Did you watch the end of the interview as the interview was winding down and it was ending?
I was in there. I don't recall I don't know what you specifically saw.
Oh my
I'm sure you
God.
don't, Rocky. Do you recall Ms. Hill at the conclusion of the interview raising her hands and saying, "This is good evidence, isn't it?" Do you recall that?
Objection, called for hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Do you recall that?
Yes, it is good evidence.
Oh my God. He's being so obtuse that he's pissing me off. Make him stop.
That's not what he said in the recording.
No, it's not.
Said, "This is good evidence. Even if he isn't raping anyone, he's contacting people he's arrested on Facebook." Do you recall that?
Oh my God.
Yes, I agree.
So she's telling you, even if he didn't rape anyone, if he didn't do anything, he's contacting people on Facebook. And she's wanting to get out of her charges, wasn't she?
I didn't take that at all.
How much time is Ms. Hill looking at doing on this felony offense?
I have no idea. I'm here for the sexual assault.
How long have you been a detective?
A while.
pretty versed in regards to the criminal statutes here in Oklahoma?
Try to be. I'm not perfect.
Say that again. Do you know she has a lot of priors?
That's what I gather.
Well, have you been able to confirm that?
Yeah, I do recall. I haven't looked at it lately.
Well, just tell the jury, what is she looking at in regards to possession with intent on PCP?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevant.
Overruled.
I don't know what I've worked sex crimes and homicide. It's been so long since I've been around dope stuff. I don't know what she's looking at.
With her priors, would you agree with me that she's looking at life in the penitentiary?
Actually, I wouldn't know.
You know what, just with no prior felony offenses, do you know what possession of PCP with intent carries in Oklahoma County?
Actually, I don't. I just know it.
You know she has a lot to lose?
Going to prison?
Yes.
Yeah.
As the witness, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it'll be a good time to take a break. It's about 12 minutes after 3. So what we'll do is we'll break until 3:35. I'm going to admonish you not to discuss the case, not to let anyone discuss the case with you. Don't try to find out anything about the case. Don't express any opinions about the case at all at this time. Leave your notebooks in your chairs, and then we'll return at 3:35. So, Mr. Holtzclaw, you're excused until 3:35. All right, the jury will be excused until 3:35. All right, thank you. We'll be in recess. Let the record reflect that all members of the jury are present. Counsel for the state, counsel for the defendant is present. Detective Gregory, if you'd retake the stand, let me remind you, you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. McConnell, redirect. Miss McConnell, redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Would help if I unbloody muted. Has Shadarian Hill once asked you for a deal in her pending criminal case?
No.
Has her attorney?
No.
To your knowledge, has she asked anyone at the DA's office for a deal on her pending criminal case?
No.
Judge, object to the form. Leading.
Overruled.
What was your answer, sir?
No.
Mr. Adams had asked you if you would expect an officer to leave their prisoner unguarded while in the shower at the Southwest Medical Centre. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
And he asked you if you would expect someone who was on PCP to be combative. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
If Miss Hill had been so combative that she required constant attention, would you have expected Officer Holtzclaw to leave her unattended while she was in her ER room while he was helping with a runaway juvenile?
No.
Object to the form, Your Honor, as to leading.
Well, I'll sustain it as to the compound nature of it. If you can break it up a little bit.
Yes, Your Honor. Did Officer Holtzclaw leave Miss Hill for a period of time alone while he helped with this runaway juvenile?
Yes.
And did that occur while she was in the ER room 16?
Yes.
If Miss Hill had been so combative on PCP that it would have taken 8 or 9 officers and Mr. Adams stated to contain her, would you have expected her?
Judge, I object. she's assuming facts not in evidence. And I didn't propose that that's what happened in this case. And I object. May we approach?
Come on.
Your Honor, so that the record is clear, the only distinction I was making was what PCP does to people, not what it did to Ms. Hill. And it's misleading this jury that somehow now I'm claiming it took 8 or 9 people to take her down. I never said that. I was talking about the effects that PCP could have on people. So object on those grounds. It's misstating facts that are not in evidence.
Judge, if Mr. Adams wasn't saying that, it wasn't saying that could have possibly been the effect that PCP had on Miss Hill, then what would have been the point of asking this detective on cross that question?
I'm going to sustain it the way you asked the question because you did say, as Mr. Adams said about Miss Hill.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that supposed to be me?
No, I don't think so. I think it's meant to be me.
Probably,
If Miss Hill had been so combative on PCP that it would have taken several officers to detain her, would you have expected Officer Holtzclaw to leave her alone in room 16?
Judge, object. Assuming facts not in evidence.
All right, overruled. You could answer.
No.
Would you have expected him to be cordial and polite with someone that combative and make small talk with her?
Keep them calm, yes. No, there's no testimony that she was combative, except when didn't it take 2 of them to get her into cuffs after she crunched the vial? There's no testimony that there's any combativeness at the hospital whatsoever.
None whatsoever. Not only that, she was handcuffed to the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, but not only that, this lawyer is trying to jump on what Adams was asking her about, asking him about the effects of PCP and everything like that. And that's what she's trying to jump on. She's trying to jump on, well, if she's that high on PCP, would it not take so many officers? So why would Daniel leave her alone? You know, because she was cuffed to the bloody bed, so he could.
Right, but there is no testimony that she was combative at all.
Yeah.
She's just
Not.
she's saying something that's not facts and
facts that aren't facts not in evidence.
Yeah. Would you have expected him to so not bottom one? Mr. Adams had asked you if Officer Holtzclaw had booked PCP vials in the property room in Shadarian House case. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Yes.
And he asked you if Officer Holtzclaw could have refused to book that property in.
Yes.
Could Officer Holtzclaw have done that without people knowing that?
No.
Why not?
You had Officer Cruz, Officer Zexer, and Lieutenant Gregory was all at the scene, who all of them knew about the vials and PCP. If he didn't book them in, it would have come back around. They would have known.
Mr. Adams also asked you if the CIU that was run on Shadarian House on December 20th, 2013 had been run by Officer Alan Cruz. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
And is that correct?
Yes.
Do officers typically communicate when they're on scenes together?
Judge, I object. It's leading, and also now I need to approach.
Okay.
Your Honor, I object as to leading. And in addition to that, she is intentionally misleading this jury, and I'm getting ready to call for mistrial. She did interview Officer Cruz, and Officer Cruz said that he never relayed that information to Officer Holtzclaw. Now she's trying to elicit testimony that, in fact, most officers do pass, suggesting the fact that Officer Cruz had, in fact, notified Holtzclaw about these warrants. It is an absolute misrepresentation of what we know that the evidence is and what I crossed on. And it's leading, and I object under all those theories.
And Judge, my recollection of the conversation with Officer Cruz was he didn't recall whether he told one way or the other. He didn't say he didn't. He just said he didn't know.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection as to, do they typically do this? You can ask specifics about this situation, and the detective can answer however he knows, whatever he knows, or not.
Do you know if Officer Cruz communicated to Officer Holtzclaw about Shardarian Hill's active warrants?
No, I don't.
But Officer Holtzclaw was the officer responsible for booking Shardarian Hill into the county jail, correct?
Object to the form, Your Honor. It's leading.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
All right, rephrase it.
Who was the officer for booking Shardarian Hill into the county jail?
Officer Holtzclaw.
Isn't the officer responsible for knowing whether someone they book into the county jail has warrants?
Yes.
Object to the form, Your Honor. It's leading.
Overruled.
What was your answer, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So would Officer Holtzclaw be held responsible for that knowledge?
Yes.
Mr. Adams asked you some questions about your contact with Ginny Stafford.
Yes.
And is Ginny Stafford the other female who was in the truck with Shardarian Hill at Liberty Station Apartments?
That's correct.
And Mr. Adams specifically asked you about Miss Ginny Stafford's comments to you that she had also been smoking PCP at Liberty Station Apartments that day. Do you remember that line of questioning?
Yes.
And he asked specifically why you didn't arrest Miss Stafford.
That's correct.
Can you arrest someone on a confession alone or on a statement they make by itself?
No, you've got to have corroborating evidence.
Can I have a timeout really quick?
Yeah.
When I believe that Adams was being flippant or sarcastic when he asked that question.
He was trying
Right.
to. He was talking about Rocky being friendly with her and trying to gain her trust.
Yeah.
Is what he was going for. Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't. Adams knew that wasn't something that he could have done. That Rocky could have done at that point. He knows that. He was just being flippant and sarcastic and a little cocky. If I can say that. Well, I can't say that. I just did. But so for her to ask that question kind of just pisses me off, but whatever. I'm sorry, go ahead. Line 10.
Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams
sorry.
also asked you if Officer Holtzclaw had determined the PC affidavit, and I think my memory of your answer was you did have to do so.
Yes.
Why?
He signed when he made out the PC affidavit, he contacted his supervisor to come out because the situation, biting the PCP vial, and Lieutenant Gregory, his supervisor, has to review. We all have to have our probable cause affidavits reviewed by a supervisor because they know the law, and we need to make sure that before we book in anybody into the county jail on charges, that somebody else takes a look at it. We just don't do it off a whim. Actually, I thought a supervisor got called out when they had to tackle her,
Yes.
because that would be
That's
technically that
excessive
would be a use of force.
use of force. Yep. Exactly.
And you're supposed to contact a supervisor when you have to do anything other than just placing the cuffs on.
That's exactly right.
So that's all total bullshit.
I think
Yes.
so, but I'm not. I mean, I could be wrong.
I'm
not
not-
wrong that that's the rule, but I could be wrong about why the lieutenant Gregory got called.
I'll find it, but somewhere I'm certain that I read that was why the lieutenant was called, because of the use of force when they had to take her down. And but it had nothing to do with the PC affidavit.
Oh,
If they had to if they called out a lieutenant every time they had to write a PC affidavit, come on.
is Lieutenant Gregory related?
No
Rocky?
relation. That's
No.
Detective
No.
Arthur Gregory.
No relation.
Yeah, no relation there. Not that Gregory Rocky has enough relations already. He doesn't need that one.
For real.
Got his mom, got his brother-in-law, had his
wife.
father-in-law still at that time. He hadn't retired yet. Got his wife. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sorry, Alice.
You're fine. Mr. Adams also asked you if Officer Holtzclaw could have requested to the detective or the DEA's office that only simple possession of CDS be filed on Miss Hill. Do you remember that question?
Yes.
And I think your testimony was that would be really uncommon.
Yes.
Would that raise suspicions?
A lot of suspicion.
Mr. Adams had asked you whether he would expect officers to be friendly and polite to people in the community.
Yes.
Would you expect them to be compassionate to people in the community?
Yes.
And he asked you specifically in this case, and I believe your testimony was not in this case.
Correct.
Why not in this case?
This case, as far as like in reference to the way he was contacting her over Facebook and text messages and by phone calls and that sort, we don't do that. We don't do that at all. If we made an arrest as a police officer and you start making contact like that, you are the number one witness against that person in a case. You can't fraternize like that. If they found out about that you were starting a relationship, however it is, the case would fall apart. That's why we don't jump all over it and we start having communication with those that we arrest. I mean, it makes no sense. It would absolutely jeopardize your case.
Would jeopardize Miss Hill's criminal case?
Yes. So did her case get did her case get jeopardized then? Because this is all
No.
out there.
It
still,
got ignored, in fact.
I mean, she still has those charges against her right at this moment.
Oh my God. Nothing ever happened with him?
No.
Well, I think she got probation on this stuff. Yeah.
Well, to me,
Well,
that's a bloody deal.
I know that during the time of the trial, nothing had happened for sure, because that was one of the things that Adams was kind of, hitting her hard on during his cross when she was on the stand. So.
Yeah, because if they'd have done something about it, Rhonda, she wouldn't have been there to be able to testify for them and slap on false allegations against Daniel, because that's all they are, is false allegations.
Right.
They could bring her out of jail to testify.
Well, they brought other people out of prison and had them transported back. I think Florine Mathis and it seems like two people got brought back from prison for this.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or was it Sarita? Might have been Sarita. I don't remember.
That's a pretty big deal, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It might have been Rosetta, actually.
Oh, maybe it was.
Doesn't that kind of prove that she got, something out of
She
this?
got a sweet deal. Yeah, she got a sweet deal.
That's why Adams kept hounding during cross. Did you have a deal between you and the DAs, or you and your attorney? And they didn't like it when he was doing that.
No, because it's not like they can actually sit there under oath and go, "Aye, we made a deal. We tell her that
we had a deal, right?"
You know what I mean? And we're like, "Aye, we tell her we wouldn't charge her for the PCP if she came and testified." They're just not going to do that. So he's got to try and question them in a manner that he can get that point across, but without pushing it too far. And they can say no all they want. If the jury gets that seed in their head, then that's something that can go for Daniel. You know what I mean? Wait a minute, she said, "Oh, this PCP, she's been jumping about with drug dealers and everything like that. She's got warrants and she's still not being lifted. Wait a minute, there's something wrong here." That's how it should have gone. When?
Well, and because Daniel was found not guilty on her case, those all could be things that played into the not guilty verdict on her. So, but yeah. Anyway, I digress.
And in fact, if an officer had contact with an arrestee like Miss Hill, a defense attorney would have a heyday with that, wouldn't he?
Judge, I would object to the form of the question.
Sustained.
You stated earlier during your cross-examination with Mr. Adams that your knowledge is that there is a policy prohibiting communication with or fraternizing with people you've arrested.
Yes, we could not fraternize like that.
And what was your memory of what rule that was?
I thought it was 350.0.
Yeah. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, approach the bench.
Your Honor, for the record, this is exactly why I've been objecting to these alleged policy violations, because now we've turned this into an administrative hearing in regards to whether or not he's violated policy. If the court will recall, he told me that there was a specific policy that prevented him from contacting anybody who'd been arrested. That's not what this policy says, but in deference to that, I
What policy are you?
It does not say that. It talks about fraternizing with people who have had bad reputations and immoral character and things of that nature. Here's my problem is that he tells us then it's 3.5, 350.0. We pulled that up. There's actually 3 different policies titled under the DVD that I was given. And I read the very first one that we pulled up. One of them is responsiveness to the community, which is what I read. There's another one called the major crime procedures, which I don't know what it even says. And the third one is prohibitive associations, which is what she's getting ready to get into. My point is, we're confusing this jury drastically in regards to what a policy violation is and what's against the law and what we're here to do, which is what we're ultimately here to decide, or what they are here to decide. It's extremely confusing. It's also unfair to Mr. Holtzclaw because now I'm not just trying a criminal case. I'm having to retry his termination hearing and his pre-D hearing and all these policy violations, which are extremely confusing. And I can't even get a grip on it enough to even understand what, quite frankly, there's probably a policy against everything if you really want to get down to it and argue about it. That's what I'm trying to stay away from. There's my objection.
Judge, my direct examination, I specifically didn't ask him any specifics about the policy. Mr. Adams got up during cross-examination and asked his specifics about the policy and showed him. As Mr. Adams has stated the incorrect 350.0, but it's left the impression in the jury's mind that this 350.0 doesn't exist. Mr. Adams opened the door to this on cross-examination. I'm inquiring specifically about the policy. Does this say that in? Even telling Detective Gregory, show me where it is. Well, Detective Gregory has had a break and he's found it. And I think it's relevant for the jury to hear. And in addition, Your Honour, Mr. Adams' line of questioning during cross-examination and his opening statements and cross-examination with almost every witness is that Officer Holtzclaw has done everything that he's supposed to do, and this policy clearly disproves that.
They keep jumping over policy violations. And what they want me to do is to shut up and not bring it up. I don't have a choice because the court lets it in. So he talks about there being a policy violation. I know that there's no policy that says you can't contact people that you're arresting. But he morphs another policy that it doesn't say those words. He morphs it into this deal. Now here we are having to genuflect to get there, which is what we're getting ready to do.
What number is it?
It's this one, Judge, 350.0.
What
They
did you
read that
want?
one.
Was
Sorry.
that something different?
Yes, there's 3 of them. And I'd have to go pull the computer, but this is the one that I read. They're all identified just like that.
The Oklahoma City police policies?
That's what it purports to be. It's the DVD I was given.
Have you gotten this?
He gave it to me after I finished cross. It was not given to me during cross. I got it after I was done. So that's my whole point. I'm being trapped into all this stuff. They talked about policies in general, and I know that there's...
Has this been turned over to you?
I got it after I finished my cross-examination.
It's on a desk.
Mr. Gigger. The entire policy manual on it, we didn't know it was going to come up because we didn't know he was going to cross him this way. I mean, that's the point. We've given them the policy manual in response to their request for discovery. They asked for it. We gave it to them before the trial started.
Again, I thought whatever lawyer was handling the witness again is handling the objections. But in any event, this is what is happening here. Yeah. Shut up, Gigger, in other words.
Exactly.
This is what is happening here is I have the policy on DVD. The only way I can't do word searches, I'm having to get actual numbers. They give me 350.0. We search it. There's literally, at the time, there's only one. Well, there's three if you go back through there and you dig through it. The first one comes up as responsiveness to the community. The second one is major crime procedures. The third one is this one that they're now talking about. Not only has it confused the jury, but also it's going to make me look like I was trying to hide something. Well, that was certainly not. Never mind, had I pulled it up, I would have read that one. But I didn't have it.
This page doesn't even have those other ones on it.
Doesn't have what?
Those other ones on it.
No, it doesn't. That's my point.
And Judge, I think I can shed light on what Mr. Adams is talking about with the three different numbers. There's a rule section, a policy section, and a procedure section. Detective Gregory testified, my memory was, that it was Rule 350.0, which is what this says. I imagine that Mr. Adams brought up something from the policies or the procedure section, but it still was given to them well in advance of the cross of this witness.
All right. This is going to be my ruling. Is your question to him, have you had a chance to look, or did you find a policy that says what it says? Was that your last question?
I think so, Judge.
Judge, at this time, I would respectfully request a limiting instruction to this jury that a violation, whether it is or not, is not against the law, and that's not what we're here to decide. And leave it, let them know that this is not a violation of the law. This is a policy that is handled administratively within Oklahoma City. Has nothing to do with this criminal case.
Well, I'm not going to say that it has nothing to do with this criminal case because it may be relevant evidence on whether it has a tendency to prove or disprove material facts in the case. So I'll allow you to ask about that.
Can I have some sort of a limiting instruction in regards to what a policy, about what they're alleging is a policy violation? It's not a violation of the statutes that we're talking about.
All right. After you get done asking that question, I will say if he's going to say specifically policy number 350 and whatever, and you can clear up, I'll let you clear up a policy or procedure or rule that may be three different things that if any violation of a policy or of this policy is not necessarily a violation of criminal law. I don't know if some policies may be a violation, but this particular, anybody think that's a violation of criminal law to associate or fraternize?
No. If it is, we're all done.
Is this one a policy or is this one a rule?
This one is a rule.
Rule.
Detective Gregory, I think you've just told me that you believe that it was Rule 350.0 that governed having contact with someone with criminal history.
Yes.
Since your cross-examination, have you been able to look at and find the rule that you were referring to?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may approach.
Detective Gregory, I'm handing you what is marked as State Exhibit 400. If you'll just take a look at that and tell me if you recognise it.
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognise it?
It's the Oklahoma City Police Department Policy Operations Manual and with the rules.
And
Police
does it have
operations.
Rule 350.0 that you were referring to?
Yes.
Your Honour, the states would move to admit States Exhibit 400.
Which I would I would object to the admission.
All right, come back up here. We need to clarify something.
Oh, God.
All right, I'm going to admit 350.0. So you need to either redact that or do something with that.
Judge, can he just read it and then we'll do a redacted copy later so we can keep going? Or,
Right.
I mean, is that okay, Ms. McConnell?
We don't have scissors, Judge, but I'll be happy to redact it.
And Judge, I object again to any policy or any written rule being admitted in this courtroom. It has no place in here, and I object to it.
And Detective Gregory, will you specifically read 350.0 for the jury?
Yes. 350.0 prohibited associations under rules states frequenting or associating with persons, organizations, or places with a reputation for criminal or immoral behavior unless necessary for law enforcement business, where said association or frequenting would be detrimental to the image of the department or the city, it's prohibited.
May I approach the witness, Your Honour?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'm going to give you a limiting instruction that a violation of Rule 3.5, 350.0 of the Oklahoma City Police Department Operations Manual is not per se a violation of the law.
Thank you, Your Honour.
You may continue.
Mr. Adams also asked you, well, before I move on to that, I had asked you, Detective Gregory, and I just want to be clear. Can you arrest someone on a confession alone?
No.
But you can, well, can you arrest someone on probable cause?
On probable cause.
And a statement that they did a crime does constitute probable cause, correct?
Yes, it can.
But will that sustain a conviction?
Not necessarily.
Judge, again, I'd object.
All right, sustained.
Mr. Adams asked you some questions about Shardarian Hill's response and how she acted towards Officer Holtzclaw on the Facebook messages that he showed you. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you think that Miss Hill's response is unusual for a victim of sexual assault?
Object, Your Honor. Speculation.
Lay a foundation. I'll sustain it.
Detective Gregory, during your time on sex crimes as a detective, I think you told me it was 6+ years, 7+ years?
Yes, going on 7, yes.
How many cases have you had involving sexual assaults?
Over 750.
Have you come into contact with 750 victims of sexual assaults then or more?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to interact with them?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to observe their demeanour?
Yes.
And based on that experience, do you find Shadarian Howe's response to be unusual?
No.
Do you find her response to be unusual for an officer perpetrated sexual assault?
No.
Why?
Worked other officers before in the sex crimes unit, and when you take the power a police officer has over somebody, or what they deem as an incredible amount of power, especially like in this case with charges being held over their head, well, from what I've observed, they feel like that they have to go along with it. No one wants to be charged. No one wants to be faced with going to prison or being taken away from their family.
Judge, I would object.
All right, sustained.
May I have a brief moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, any recross on those new areas, Mr. Adams?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Gregory, under oath and in front of this jury, are you telling them that you did not have the authority to arrest Ms. Stafford when she confessed to you that she was smoking PCP?
Just arrest?
Yes.
I could arrest her.
Okay. Chose not to, correct?
Yes.
But you did have some corroboration that, in fact, she was smoking PCP and committing a felony here in Oklahoma City, didn't you?
Yes.
No.
Oh, no, I mean, no, sorry. God.
You didn't
Sorry,
have
we
any
just had a
corroboration?
hell of a windstorm that busted a branch off and hit the front
no.
door over here, so I was a
Do you
little
need to get?
distracted.
Do you need
No,
to get the cellar?
no, go.
Okay.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You didn't have any corroboration that she was there at the scene and had been run on CIU by Officer Cruz?
She was there?
She was there. She was in the truck when they said that they smelled the chemical of PCP, correct?
She was there.
She was there. She came into contact with the officers, correct?
Yes.
There was no doubt that she was there.
Yes.
There's no doubt that she confessed to you that she was smoking PCP on December the 20th of 2013, correct?
Yes.
And she's not charged.
She's not charged.
Secondly, you testified about this policy 3.5 or 350 point. You would agree with me that that's the one that I purported to get off the computer and bring up there and have you read earlier, correct?
Mr. Adams, I think this was a rule, not a policy.
Rule 350, correct?
Oh, God dang it. Yes, I was talking about the rules.
Okay. And if I type in, I was given a disc or DVD by the prosecution in this case. Are you aware of that about the policies and procedures of Oklahoma City?
I don't know if you were given a disc or anything like that.
Well, there's actually I guess three. There's three different 350.0s. Is there not?
Under rules, no, there's
Oh
just
my-
one.
Oh my God. So we've got to be schooled and versed in regards to the rules, the policies, and the procedures. And we have to be right under one of those three to get it to what you're talking about, correct?
Unfortunately, that's the way our manual is.
Well, in the one that you read off to the jury, the one that's been offered and introduced into evidence, basically what you're stating is that Shadarian Hill in our community has a reputation for criminal and immoral behavior, correct?
Yes.
And you agree with that?
Yes.
And you're saying that unless it's for necessary law enforcement business, that the association between Officer Holtzclaw talking to her would be detrimental to the image of the department or the city, correct?
Yes.
Now, in regards to her reputation for the criminal behavior, I'm assuming that you're talking about the PCP.
Yes, what she was arrested by Officer Holtzclaw on.
Are you talking about anything else other than her PCP?
Yes.
Okay, what?
Oh, I'm sorry, re-ask the question?
What else is there about her reputation for being a criminal? Are we to consider, or should Officer Holtzclaw considered under this rule, that you're talking about other than the possession of PCP?
What I'm saying is just the simple fact of what he was charging her with automatically puts it into that category. That's why he broke the rule.
Okay. You also testified that she also has a reputation in our community for immoral behavior.
I believe she had some previous felonies. Yes, I can't name them, but yes.
Is Officer Holtzclaw aware of those previous felonies?
I know that he pulled up her Varuna and seen her criminal history, so that would also break the rule, yes. Huh?
That would break the rule that he pulled it up and looked at it, or that it would break the rule that he knew about it and still had contact with her.
That he knew about her criminal behavior and that he still had contact with her.
And you would agree with me that a violation of this rule is not a violation of the criminal statutes here in the state of Oklahoma, correct?
That's correct.
In fact, there's a whole different process that a police officer goes through when they're allegedly violating your rules, correct? Called a pre-D hearing, an administrative hearing, right?
Re-ask the question?
Whenever an officer is accused of violating these rules that we're talking about, this 350.04 that we're talking about, they get brought up on administrative charges within the department, correct?
Administrative, yes.
Yeah, not criminal, but administrative, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in regards to your experience with this Rule 350.0, tell me about your experience with it. You certainly never violated it, have you?
Right now, I can't think of a time.
And are you aware of any other officer within the Department of Oklahoma City that's been brought up on charges of 350.0 that you've referenced?
Yes.
Who?
I've done investigation like this where an officer sexually assaulted somebody under their power before, and they also were looked at under 350.
That's not my question. My question was who, sir?
Pronounce his name wrong. Robert Gillum.
Robert what?
It's been a little bit of time.
How long have you been on the force?
Going on 16 years.
In your 16 years, you've named Gilliam, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me another officer that you're aware of that has ever been formally disciplined for 350.0 rule.
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled. You can answer if you know.
I'm not for sure on that. I'm just talking about my own personal experience as far as the thousands of officers.
You've been on the force for 16 years, correct?
Yes.
And you have just brought to the attention of everyone that Officer Holtzclaw has allegedly violated Rule 350.0, correct?
Yes, we've deemed that today.
You've told me that, correct? You've told this jury that, correct?
That's correct.
I'm asking you to tell us the names of any other officers that have ever been brought up for violating that rule at administrative hearing.
I don't work IA, internal affairs.
If you don't know, you can say, I don't know, or I don't have any other names. I'm not asking for a dissertation. I'm asking for a yes or no. Are you aware of any other officer ever being brought up for violation of that rule?
I don't work internal affairs, but I can't think of.
Judge, I would ask the court instruct the
Detective, just answer the question.
No.
Was it that hard to tell? Say no?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
Pass the witness.
Anything further?
No.
All right, thank you, Detective. You can step down.
Ugh.
Well,
We are
Holy
done with
moly.
good job, Adams.
Yeah, he did good. He
Yeah.
did good. He's all over the Shardarian Hill case for sure. Yeah, just I have to be honest. I'm glad we didn't go through all the other stuff. The direct examination. It would have just been a lot of nothing really factual or evidentiary, but a lot of that kind of talk. I mean, there was a lot of talk about the hospital in the rooms and the way that looked and the where from the nurses station there was that talk and talk about Liberty Station apartments. There was also testimony about Daniel's AVL that night and did his AVL show that he was at Liberty Station apartments and did it show that he went to
Well, duh.
I know. And did it show that he went to the hospital? And did it show that he was sitting idle at the hospital? And for how long? That was all completely unnecessary testimony, in my opinion. And the fact that he on the lineup for this day? Yes, he's on. That was all. It was all logistics, I think is the right word, and it was just completely unnecessary information. But like I said, we'll put it in. We'll put the entire transcript in the Discord room. Jaznaz says, are any of the panel case enthusiasts? Absolutely not. We are all case experts. Our amygdalas are completely intact. Thanks, Jazz. I appreciate that. That's really good. So like I said, you can, if you're interested, there's no new information in it. It's a bunch of Rocky's opinion about, kind of like he did in the cross-examination, his opinion about, was that significant to you? Yes. Why? Well, because of blah, 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 blah. So you guys can read all that if you choose to, and, decide for yourself how you feel about it. I will also put all the rest of the witnesses that were involved in her case. I'll put their transcripts in the room as well.
Did anybody have? Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Did anybody, any of the witnesses, have anything to say about the lack of video?
You mean in the hospital that night?
Right. Why they only had a still?
Well, considering that it was Rocky who was doing the investigating, I doubt it.
I would have thought that the defense would have looked into that, tried to get it, and maybe they did.
Well,
Yeah,
I
perhaps.
100% believe they got video
I do too.
in their investigation and
Just
chose
wish
just
we had
to take a
evidence
still.
of it. Yeah.
They didn't want to show how long he was gone on that, probably.
Well, yeah. And here's the funny thing. Jaznaz, there are some criminal justice advocates, those of us who would like to see the criminal justice system reform, And I do have a criminal justice degree, so I don't know if that counts. But anyway, um, thanks for being here, Jazz Naz. I appreciate it. You know, here's what's interesting when you think about that photo of Daniel in the hospital behind the other cop in the runaway. And I think this was asked by Adams, where did that photo come from? Because if it didn't come from a video, a screenshot from a video, did it just appear out of nowhere for just this case? Or are there other still shots of other random activities in the hospital that also exist?
Well, there was no timestamp or anything like that, or date or anything like that on that photo of what I picked up was curtains closed in the hospital room. That could have been on any day in the hospital. That could have been the day before the bloody trial in any hospital. You know what I mean? In my opinion, and this is just speculation, is they got that video. And because it showed Daniel a wayfarer just standing waiting to find out what's happening, then him leaving to go and help this other officer, and then him coming back to wait for whatever was happening with Shadarion, and it didn't fit their narrative, so they took the still of this picture, got rid of the video, and just entered that into evidence. Now, as I say, that's just my speculation, but that is how my mind is working, because like everybody's saying is that picture has got to have came from somewhere, and if it didn't come from that precise video, which should have had a date and a time on it, it's very, very suspicious.
Yes.
We're having a storm
No.
too.
We're not lightning and thundering, but we're getting ready to snow.
Thunder. So,
I hear some
did they
thunder.
have any nurse testify at all from that?
They did. There's, I think, one nurse and possibly the ER doctor. And I'll get that for you guys. And the officer, whatever, it has the Z in her name, her testimony and Shadarion's mom's testimony. So, yeah.
Liar. She's a liar too, isn't she?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she says that I believe mom says that Shardarion came home from the day they got her out of jail, that she came home and told them all about the sexual assault that took place in the hospital. But we know from prior testimony or whatever in the preliminary, I don't remember. Other people have testified or made in statements that she did not, like Janae said that no, I had no idea that she never told me anything.
Yeah, and
about that.
Shardarion definitely said that she told Janae.
Yes. Yep, she did. So, this was a wild series. I don't know. I want to say even more wild than Tabitha Barnes, just because there were so much trial testimony. There was so much trial testimony, and I mean, just with Shardarion alone, there was over 246 pages or something, something like that. So I feel like this just really went on. And if we did read, what I really think is important are the witness testimonies, the doctor and the nurse and the other officers. Those are important testimonies. I can either go another week and we can read those, although they're going to be a little out of context at this point, or we can move on from Shardarian Hill. I'll put all of that transcript in her room in my Discord, and we can move on to the next accuser. And if I'm not mistaken, because what we've done on this show, I'm not sure, I kind of wish I hadn't now, but what we did on this show was when we finally started, decided that we were just going to start, biting the bullet and paying for transcripts. We were already into, I believe, Regina Copeland, and we had just been following Brian Bates's podcast numbers with our accusers. Well, Regina Copeland, if that's the one I remember we started with, that was the first one that we got all the transcripts for, or maybe it was Rosetta. But at any rate, we had already started down Brian Bates's podcast numbers of accusers. So now I can either, Brian Bates' podcast ends with Shardarian Hill, but we already did, because his last accuser would be Adara Gardner, but we've already done Adara Gardner's transcript, read all of her transcripts and her mom's. So now what would be happening, because this is what we haven't done yet, is go back to the very beginning, June 18th, and start with transcripts from Jamie Liggins. I feel pretty comfortable saying that I think a lot of the viewers and subscribers might be ready for that at this point. I know it's a really weird way to go about this, but now that we are getting some access to transcripts, I think that's where we are now. We're done. Brian Bates doesn't have any more to offer yet until he's ready to finish with Adara, and then he would start with the trial. He has no more to offer, so that just kind of makes me feel like, okay, time to start back at the beginning, June 18th, 2014, with Shardarian, or with Jamie Liggins, where this entire travesty began. So
Was she the first one to testify at trial?
I believe she's the first one to testify, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, it's not that hard for me to figure out. Hold on. I think she might have been, and then we would just go down the line of who's testifying.
Yeah,
for sure. So let me find anyway, so we're going to work that out in the next couple of days, but that's kind of what I'm thinking that we're going to do. Start back with Jamie Liggins. Here's the paper right here that I need. Yes, so, and we've already read the opening and closing statements, which Liam, in the chat, everybody, thanks to Liam once again. Liam paid for the opening and the opening statements of the state and the defense, and so we were able to get that, and we've already read and recorded that, if I'm not mistaken. But then we go with Jamie Liggins, and she's got quite a few witnesses in her. She's got, I don't even know how many pages of witnesses, several hundred, I'm sure. So I kind of want to know what the chat thinks, if that's what they are ready for. To start seeing, or everybody on the phone. Hey T1, thanks for hanging out. You need a chart?
Here's Gar says we need a chart. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so as far as Brian Bates' podcasts, we've gone through his entire podcast now, but we've only had trial transcripts since. Don't I have that in there? I thought I had it in there. I've been marking them off as I've been getting them. So they should be up to date, Liam. I'll check again, but I've been marking them in red. I've been highlighting them in red as I've obtained them. I'll check it again though. But that's, let me show you here. Let me see if I can get this on my screen. I'm sure I can. And then I can just kind of give you guys an idea of what it looks like that we're talking about. Okay, this is what we're working with. So this is what we've already read. Transcripts already purchased are in red. So we've done the opening statements for the state and the defense. And then
I think I'm losing internet, if you can hear me.
Oh, okay. You probably need to go. This really comes down to, listen, go to Discord in the transcripts room and you can see, I could hear you, Susan, but this is where we're at now. So this is where we've done, this is what we've done. We've done Tabitha Barnes, with the exception of her witnesses. We've done Carla Raines and Rosetta Gray, with the exception of her witnesses. And Kayla Lyles we've done, and Adara Gardner. We've done closing statements for the state, defense, and the state's rebuttal. So that takes us right back up to the top here with Janie Liggins on, she's only got 87 pages of trial transcript. So that's what my plan is, unless others disagree with it. Yeah, it's in the transcripts to be acquired room in my Discord, or transcript donation room. Okay. Anyway, in the interest of keeping this under 3 hours, I don't know if we can do it exactly, but we'll definitely decide in the next couple of days what we're going to do next. I kind of feel like going with Janie Liggins' trial transcripts is probably the best place to go, but we'll see. If you're not sure about what's available still to be purchased, or what's available to be read or whatever, you can go and find that same chart I just showed you in my Discord, and any questions you have, you can ask them there. So I will, if anybody wants to say their good nights, we can say good night. Otherwise, I think we're going to go ahead and be done, and we will be back. We're back on our Thursday schedule. And so with all that being said, thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for your questions, your comments, and please leave questions and comments in the comment section as well. And like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And until next time, peace out.